I am only against the fake news media or press. Fake. They have to leave that word. I'm against the people that make up stories and make up sources.
It's labeled the war on press. But what is the war on press? News is a part of journalism, and how could it be considered fake if it's been relied upon for centuries? With regard to this, I was able to interview Noel Smith from TSG Publishing, Don Miller, the editor of the Santa Cruz Sentinel, and Steve Musil, a journalist based in Massachusetts. How do you feel about the war on press that is supposedly going on now?
Please tell me in your questionnaire that the war on press is in quotes.
Yeah, of course it's in quotes. I mean, I said supposedly as well.
I mean, it's happened before. I don't, I would say consider the source.
It's not really a war on the press, it's a war by the press.
If this war by the press thing really is the case, then how?
They're not really talking about the news, they're talking about what they think about the news. And so it's not a war on the press, it's a war by the press, and what we've seen is a reaction to that. That people have started going away from listening to, well, the Washington Post is particularly bad. I think it's probably the worst piece of journalism that I've ever seen. Every article, if you read 20 articles in the Washington Post, you'll find 19 and a half of them of one opinion.
There have always been people who don't want facts reported, would prefer the journalists only write opinion and only write the opinion that agrees with what they want. Some of those people are in positions of power and have been. The fact that one of them happens to be the President of the United States at the moment is really the only thing that makes this different than a year ago.
Well, I think the alternative facts that he didn't say that, Kellyanne Conway said that, but and I don't think that's. I think it's been kind of overdrawn since then. But I think the real problem is that the current administration does not hew to the truth. So they have a very loose interpretation of what's true or not. He himself, as a political figure, is prone to misstatement, to lies, sometimes hyperbole. So that kind of sets the tone for them.
Well, I think where the president, the way he's been treated, is that he's a businessman. So as things change or he learns more about what's happening, his opinion changes. He's a lot more flexible, but as soon as he starts being flexible, the media starts calling him flip-flop, or he's not. He was lying before, and now he's doing something different. But really, what's happening is, as he learns the job, and as events change, he changes his mind. He changes his approach. That's what a businessman does. If you find the market is going in one direction, like you say, going away from print, and they'll start using the internet a lot more. So that's the way a businessman would approach life, and I think that's how he does it.
In digital media sources, there's so many of them, and it's very hard to know who's credible, who's authentic, and who's not.
The key to being a good journalist is not to be unbiased, but to make sure that your reporting is. To make sure that your reporting is 100% based in fact, no matter where it leads.
Opinion-based journalism seems to be the best way to define the business today. Why so many opinions now? And how would the people know?
Well, you can usually tell by the descriptive words. When you talk about, let's say, John Smith, when you say that he is a socialist John Smith, or communist John Smith, or conservative John Smith, you've already put an opinion, just by describing who you think John Smith is, rather than describing what he's done or what he says. but you've already given your opinion just by the descriptive words you used.
Well, reporters try their best to and they, not always successfully, to authenticate information and to get multiple sources on information for news accounts, and to weigh both sides or multi-sides as best they can without putting their own opinions, their own agenda on top of that. Opinion itself, I write editorials for the paper very often. Those don't have to hew to that kind of standard. They are clearly marked. In the old newspaper, in the world of newspapers, of course, you have something that says opinion on the top of it, on top of the page, so the reader would know the difference. These days, again, that's blurred.
What used to be known as a blog has now become journalism, because they're writing mostly about how they feel about things rather than about the actual events, or trying to put their slant on what's happened, rather than giving a complete story. They take an opinion and write a story around it.
The only question to ask now is, where is journalism today?
The age of newspapers is over, and while newspapers may remain in some form, it won't be in the one that the previous generations are used to. So journalism itself now has branched out into a much closer relationship between the consumer of news and the purveyor of news. So sometimes the consumer of news is the purveyor of news in many cases now. So it's gotten, the healthy part of it is there's a much better dialogue now. There's the wall between the two has been broken down. The bad part is that there's a lot of information that you can't trust anymore.
I think the problem is that people say they're journalists, but they're actually more involved in writing about their own opinion and using the kind of reporting that promotes opinion rather than events and what's happening.
Well, we're going more and more toward convergence, which is kind of the buzzword there, but what that means is we're trying to be more of everything instead of just having reporters who are just really good at writing and maybe interviewing. We also want people who know a little bit about editing, who know a little bit about audio reporting, video reporting, web editing, and all of that. Unfortunately, everybody is expected to do more because we have less and less opportunity to hire more people for that. At the same time, it's just a really exciting time, even still, as we've got new technologies, new ways of telling these stories.